Hey humans, it's Hannah. Welcome back to the second channel. My main channel is Hannah the Horrible, and this is Hannah the Horrible's sister channel, where all we do here is tell listener scary stories. You guys email me your scary personal story that is dark, paranormal, whatever weird experiences you've had, and I read them and react to them in a video. If you'd like to submit your own story, the directions are always in the description box down below. It does have to be true to the best of your knowledge, but if it's not paranormal, it can still be near-death experience, anything scary that happened in your life, but it could still be funny, twist ending, whatever you see fit, as long as it has a dark theme. That's all the intros. Let's get right into story number 1 for today. This one has photos. Always exciting. I just watched your third video about the true scary stories from readers, and I always like to tell people about the bunch of weird stuff that has been going on in my childhood home. I have a bunch of creepy stories, but I will stick to the ones that correlate. You can read out everything I write, and I will try to keep my swearing to a minimum. Also, I am German, so I am sorry if my grammar is a bit messy or sentences sound weird. I'm sure it's fine. Some swearing is also fine. YouTube doesn't mind if we swear too much, as long as we're not saying it every other word. Alrighty, where to begin? Well, first of all, I do believe in a different plane, realm, or ghosts, but I am an open skeptic and don't usually believe any of the stuff I see or hear. I will never jump to a ghost explanation right away, and since I have a background in animation and art, I am fairly good at spotting CGI, practical FX. So yeah. Okay, setup. My room was located at the corner of the hallway that goes a 3/4 circle around the floor, ending at my parents' bedroom. There is a big bathroom at the end of it, and the bedroom is the biggest room in the house. My room was right across the master bedroom, and when all doors are open, you can see right through to the bathroom door at the end. It looks like a huge hallway. I'll also add a picture for better visualization. Next to my room, second floor, is a small bathroom and my other brother's room. I promise the setup is important, so bear with me. There are stairs going up to my sister's and brother's rooms, with my sister's room being on top of the master bedroom and my brother's on top of the bathroom. And then finally there are the stairs going down to the living room and kitchen. Anyhow, ever since I was little, I was terrified of that master bedroom, especially at night. It's big, long, dark, and creepy with stairs and shadows and a bunch of places to hide, which is awesome in general. We would often play hide and seek and other made-up games in the house when it was dark. I was fine with hiding everywhere, but I never wanted to be alone in the master bedroom, and even with my siblings in there, it would make me feel uncomfortable up to terrified. I always felt like something was lurking there, just watching. It has an eerie and unwelcoming feel to it. I always thought I was being watched or something was about to run or jump at me. Of course, what didn't help was my older brother always trying to scare the living daylights out of me by jumping me at night or running at me from the master bedroom. But it wasn't just that. Even today, I feel watched and uncomfortable. When I am in that room, I always run past it to the small bathroom, even during the day, and usually close all the doors so nothing can follow me, especially when I am alone in the house. I also turn on all the lights. I did that once when I was house sitting by myself. I went into the big bathroom, closing all the doors behind me and turning on all the lights. When I came back out, all the doors were open and the lights were off. I noped out of there and went to my grandma's house to pee after that. Yeah, I think I would have noped out of there as well, especially if you were home alone and you know it wasn't one of your siblings playing a joke on you. My mom says she feels a presence there as well, but that it's a kind one, her uncle, which basically sounds like BS because nothing about it is nice. I would stand at the top of the stairs just a few feet away from my room at night, too scared to move because I thought something would get me. I always brushed it off, thinking it was basically the fear my brother had installed in me by scaring me so much as a kid. It wasn't. When my sister grew older, we started to become very close. She's one of my best friends, and we talk about literally everything. During one of our chats, we ventured into the realm of ghosts and the uncanny, and I mentioned that I had always been somewhat scared of the house. She just said, yeah, I always thought there was something creepy in our parents' bedroom. I never wanted to sleep in there, even with mom and dad, and I don't like going inside. I was stunned. We talked for hours after that, all about the creepy stuff that goes on there. She said that there was often something in her room, remember, right above the master bedroom, and she would wake up at night and knew exactly in which corner it was standing, looking down at her, just staring. I hate it. When I moved back in after college, I moved into the room next to hers above the master bathroom, and I would usually keep the door closed for both our privacy, and I had to walk through her room to get to mine. I could hear her rummaging and walking around next door, pushing furniture around and working at her desk, and I would talk or call to her through the door. When she didn't answer, I opened the door just to find that she wasn't there. A couple times she hadn't been home all day and I had had the house to myself. That happened a bunch of times, but I only found it weird, not scary. My back hurts. So that brings me to this day. My sister and I were home alone with our dog, Duncan. That's an adorable name for a dog. We went downstairs cuddling and petting him before we would go for a walk, and we heard someone walking around upstairs, slamming the door, coming down the upper stairs from the 3rd to 2nd floor. We looked at each other and grinned. By that time, we had already named him Oliver, random name. He was walking around upstairs. We have never talked to whoever it was before, but for some reason that day I called out, "Hey!" only for him to reply with a quiet, "Hello," in my younger brother's voice. There was a dead silence, and my sister and I just stared at each other. Then we nervously laughed as Oliver returned to his business, and I looked at our dog and said, "Well, Duncan seems calm, so I guess we're fine." However, we did go on that walk pretty quickly after that. We agreed that it had sounded exactly like our brother, who had moved out months earlier and wasn't home, nor was anyone else. I started talking to Oliver after that when he bothered me too much. He seems to be somewhat related to the master bedroom. It does seem like that, but doesn't feel as sinister as that room. So we think there might be something else. I have thought about cleansing the place just for the heck of it. I have no idea if that does anything, but if the placebo effect kicks in, I'm fine with that. My sister and I agreed, though, that Oliver might be holding the bedroom thing at bay, so we haven't been brave enough yet. I don't know if it's real or not, but I firmly believe that there are certain things that you just don't mess with. Okay, sorry for the long post. Have a great day, Hannah, and keep up your great work. Lots of love from across the pond, Kiwi. Thank you, Kiwi. I am with you. I am probably more skeptical than you are. However, I'm also not one to poke the bear. I'm obviously very skeptical, but not 100%. Because I would generally not mess with that stuff either, especially if I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. So that was a crazy story. I love that you named him. It would be fun to try to contact him, though, just to figure out what his real name is. I wonder if he could tell you. So cute. All right, moving on. This is story 2. Hi, Hannah. I hope you're doing well. You can call me Rat. Love that. Before I recount my silly little story, I'd like to say I really enjoy your videos, especially your scary story readings. Your perspective on the supernatural and your witty humor are really refreshing. Thank you for sharing your content with the world, Queen. Thank you. Thank you. You guys, I know you guys all say that. You definitely don't have to, but the fact that you guys are all so sweet at the beginning of these emails, I never get desensitized to it, if that makes any sense. Every single time I'm just oh, stop it. Stop it. That's no, because it's really weird. Being a YouTuber is very weird. You do not feel like you deserve any of the praise that you get. And I'm sure most YouTubers, at least most normal YouTubers, feel the same way. Anyway, okay. The town I grew up in was one of those small American southeastern places that, despite not being outwardly creepy, has an extremely strange vibe. Lots of odd things would happen there, not necessarily scary, just weird circumstances and strokes of bad luck. I've had several creepy or unexplainable things happen to me. A lot of these occurred when I lived with my parents as a teen. My parents' home was in the woods, about a 30 minutes walk from the center of town where my best friend lived, and my little gay ass didn't learn how to drive until I was 22, so I would often walk the empty winding road from her house to my family home. Of course, because we were both teenagers, so I would wander home around 1 to 3 a.m. after a long night of shenanigans. Nostalgia. Those were the days. The walk itself wasn't scary, and the story isn't about the walk home, but I just think it sets the vibe of what this town was like at night, so I apologize if it's irrelevant. I would sometimes hear footsteps behind me that would continue for a couple seconds after I stopped walking. Occasionally, I would also sometimes see pairs of eyes in the dark floating 8 to 10 feet in the air that would disappear when I would shine my phone flashlight towards them, only to reappear when I turned my light away. Just lots of small things like that. Nope. Eyes in the dark? That scene from Snow White, you know, where there's like the eyes in the forest, that scared me as a kid. Legit. That's oof. Since our town was so small, there was a limited selection of places my friends and I could hang out at night. Also relatable. I had a town like that too as a teenager, and there was like, we could hang out at the 24/7 grocery store, or we could bounce a bouncy ball in the parking lot. One of the places was the playground at our town's community center. We would go to the 7-Eleven and get candy and then sit on the playground and engage in typical teenage foolishness. One night around midnight, we were doing just that when we heard a faint voice in the distance. The playground is pretty close to a cemetery. Looking back, I have no idea who thought that was a good thing to have near a playground, but okay. And some houses, and you can hear the radios of cars going by, so we had assumed maybe it was just some distant human sounds. We continued to talk over it. Over the course of an hour or so, the voice started to get progressively louder. I came to the realization that it was a man singing. It sounded like an older man, maybe in his 60s. He was singing a song I'd never heard before, and I still haven't figured out. It was one of those old folk songs, something low and droning and distinctly South. Something you'd hear Peepaw singing on his porch in his rocking chair or some shit. It had been slowly and steadily drawing closer for a fucking hour while my friends and I had been talking. Whose grandpa is just out walking in the town at midnight practicing for his American Idol performance? During a lull in the conversation, someone mentioned it being louder and we all stopped to listen. It was so creepy hearing this old man's rough voice filling the dark. It sounded like he was on the other side of the trees surrounding the playground. Looking back, I think I might have heard shuffling footsteps, but honestly, I'm not sure. After a few seconds, my homies and I made like bananas and fucking split. I love that. That's fantastic. I usually say, let's blow this popsicle stand, or stick that in your juice box and suck it. Okay, sorry. Where was this person going? Why was he singing? The only thing over there was the cemetery and some smaller houses, so what was he doing at midnight? I don't believe in ghosts, but it gave me the absolute creeps. I've got a couple more experiences like this, so maybe in the future I'll send more. Thanks for reading. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Rat. That is a really creepy story. Cemeteries at night especially are very scary, even if ghosts are completely not real. Like, let's just say hypothetically, they're not real whatsoever. Still being in a cemetery would be kind of scary at night, just because, I don't know, still like you're still around so much energy from those people. Maybe it was a ghost. Maybe it was somebody in one of the houses close by that saw you guys and wanted to play a joke on you because they knew that the cemetery was close by and that it would freak you out. All right, moving on. This is the third story. Hi, Hannah. Happy spooky season. I love your channel, but I can only watch your videos during the day or I get scared. LOL. Totally fine. And don't watch any of the videos that you don't think are going to be good for your mental health. If they're going to be too scary, like, don't worry about it. I have friends, my family, like, doesn't watch my videos because they don't, well, my sister does, but my parents don't because they are not interested in the subject matter and they don't want to know disturbing things like that at all. I have friends that also, they're just like, they don't want to know the things that I talk about in my videos. So if you watch any of them, that's so sweet of you. And also just like, do what works for you is what I mean. Okay. I wanted to share a scary story about a near-death experience that happened almost 10 years ago. And I still remember it vividly. One of the few times in my life I can say I was truly scared. You do not have to keep me anonymous. This story takes place in 2015 when I was a senior in high school. I was 17 years old and my best friend at the time was my cousin Jenny, who is 2 years younger than me. In order for the story to make sense, let me give you a little backstory. During this time of my life, every weekend I spent the night at my cousin's house, and we were very close. We spent most of our time in her room doing our makeup or taking pictures and laughing. It was our safe space. She lived in a one-story home with 4 bedrooms, and she is the only daughter, having one big brother, one little brother, and her parents. One Saturday morning, we all woke up early and went grocery shopping as a family. We were gone for maybe over an hour, but the house was left alone. When we got back inside the house, we realized something was off. Someone was either in there or they had been. We didn't want to risk it, so we ran out to the front of the house and called the police. We didn't go inside until the police came about 30 minutes later. Once it was safe to go in, we noticed all the destruction done to the house. Furniture turned over, cabinets open and gone through. I mean, the definition of a burglary. The worst part was when my cousin and I went to go see her room. It was the worst one. They stole all her jewelry, flipped over her mattress, and looked through all her drawers. I mean, truly, it wasn't even my house, but I felt so violated for her. No other room in the house had been gone through as bad as hers. We were all shaken up, and they got security cameras and a system immediately. It took a while for us to recover, and I still went over every weekend to spend the night, and this situation was starting to become a thing of the past. I think that's the biggest thing with robberies, or when you're like the victim of a crime. It's not even the stuff or so much the crime. It's the feeling violated. It's feeling like, a safety boundary was completely ruined. And that, I feel like that's the most traumatic part. A few months later, me and Jenny were home alone at her house with just her big brother and his girlfriend. I believe it was a Friday night and it was getting late. Her brother didn't really want to leave 2 teenage girls alone in the house, given what had happened, but he and his girlfriend had plans and he decided to go out anyway. He told us to lock the door and call him if we needed anything. Not even 20 minutes after her brother had left, we were all alone in the kitchen when we heard the front door being jangled hard AF and someone trying to come inside. Given the recent burglary, we immediately thought it was the people coming back. Yeah, I would think that same thing. We looked at each other and I swear both our hearts dropped to our stomachs. We were scared shitless. The door kept jangling and we could see someone peering in the windows and then suddenly banging on the door hard as hell. At this point, we knew we were screwed if they came in. My heart was racing. I thought of every movie I had ever seen where people have to outsmart someone trying to kill them, and I ran so many scenarios through my head of how we could get out of here. But all we did was grab a knife from the kitchen and we ran into the master bedroom and locked the door. We ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and crouched down on the floor. My cousin was crying and calling her brother, telling him someone was banging on the door hard, trying to come inside. He was on speaker and I could hear the fear in the voice. He was so worried for us and felt so bad that he left us alone, and now we were in this situation. He was telling her to call their parents or the police. I really don't remember, but he started turning back to come back to the house. He stayed on the phone with her and she was holding the knife just sitting by the door. Mind you, this whole time the banging has never stopped, only getting louder and harder. I remember how I felt in that moment. I thought, this was it. I don't know how to fight. I don't know that I have it in me to fight my hardest to stay alive like girls in the movies. Be a final girl. I thought this was how I was gonna die, next to my cousin on the bathroom floor by some robbers, the literal stuff of nightmare. I never cried, at least not that I remember, but I had silently accepted my fate, that they were gonna burst in eventually and something would happen to us that night. Oh my God. That sounds like the scariest feeling in the world. I don't know how you didn't pee your pants. I would have peed my pants, at least. But you never know how you're going to react. Just like you said, you don't remember crying because your body probably just went into shock. And like they say, fight or flight. It's fight, flight, or freeze. It sounds like you froze. Then when the door finally burst open, we heard loud voices coming inside and my cousin was crying like crazy. I was trying to keep her quiet so they wouldn't find us, but it was the scariest moment of my life. Suddenly we heard people calling out our names and recognized it was her parents. My cousin ran out into the living room and I followed her. The whole time we thought the robbers were outside. It was her little brother banging on the door with his fists for us to open it for him. They were unloading groceries and couldn't open the door. They were laughing at us for being so scared and having a kitchen knife in our hands, asking us what we were going to do with that if it was a robber. Stab them, obviously. That's a stupid question. Me and her were so relieved, and after a while we laughed about it too, but I was pissed. I asked her little brother why on earth he would bang on the door that hard instead of just knocking like a normal person. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Any other time, I don't think we would have been scared, but because they were recently robbed, their home broken into so easily and stolen from, it made me realize how close danger really is. Luckily, this ended up being a funny story, and I proceeded to tell people in my life, and they were never robbed again, by the way. Even though her brother scared the hell out of me that night, I'm glad it was him and not some real threat. That's pretty much the end of the story. If it makes it in your video, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it made sense. LOL. Thank you for reading this and have a great spooky season. WTF, that's so scary. I don't know what I would do. I think that's, sorry, I'm a little bit pissed on your behalf that they were laughing at you and that was their first instinct. Like, that seems mean. You had a legit reason to be scared and you guys just went through something traumatic. Like, it seems really, like, I feel like most people would just feel really bad, like feel guilty. Maybe not a little brother, but like, you'd think the parents would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oy. All right. This is the fourth story for today. Hi, Hannah. I have a story I'd like to share from back in 2021. It's not the scariest story ever, but it's definitely strange and something I think about a lot. That's okay. It doesn't have to be the scariest story ever. So I'm not sure how to describe it other than being almost like a Backrooms experience. It was August 2021 and my boyfriend and I had just met in person. We had been in a long distance relationship since March 2021 and we didn't get to meet in person until August because of COVID restrictions on flights and whatnot. We met in Niagara Falls, which is as romantic as it sounds. It was an amazing place for us to first meet each other and we have some wonderful memories from that trip. One part of the trip was a bit strange though. As I said earlier, COVID was still running rampant at this point, so in a lot of the hotels in the area, the pools were closed, including the hotel we were staying at. We were walking down near the falls together and we saw a nice looking hotel and decided to go inside. I can't remember exactly which hotel it was, but I believe it had a casino attached to it and it was right by the falls. We went inside and looked for a map of the hotel to find out which floor the pool was on. We were feeling a bit rebellious and decided it would be fun if we could find a hotel that had their pool open or one that we could sneak into. We located the pool and headed towards the elevators. We then noticed that the elevator didn't go to the specific floor that had the pool. We thought it was strange, but headed to the staircase instead. The staircase was pretty normal at first, the flights of stairs zigzagging downward like most do. At some point, the stairway became more narrow and there were no windows anymore. It was just white brick walls and metal stairs leading down. It felt like we were climbing down them for an eternity until we reached the bottom. We knew at this point that we were definitely below where the pool was supposed to be, but there weren't any exits to the pool along the way. At the bottom, there was a door. We were just fucking around, having a good time, so we opened the door and went onward. Through the door, it was one of the weirdest places I've ever seen. It looked like it was a place that was under construction somewhat because we could see the support beams for the walls as if they hadn't placed drywall on one side yet. Some doorways just opening between the walls had white sheets hanging from the ceiling to block them. The floors were white, the walls were white. There were some doors which were solid metal and also white. It was eerily quiet and lit by fluorescent lights, giving a very strong Backrooms vibes. That sounds like the Backrooms. We walked a bit further and the walls went back to being white brick. We noticed it was getting more dark the further we went, but we spotted another flight of stairs up ahead that had a weak light source coming from it. When we got there, we looked down the metal staircase to see another white metal door at the bottom of the stairs, but this time it looked really dirty and creepy. The light was just a light bulb on the wall beside it. After that, we decided to head back. We climbed back up the flights of stairs, which felt even longer than the way down. I definitely think there's a logical explanation for this, like literally just construction on a basement or something, but it was just such a bizarre experience, and it's something my boyfriend and I love to remember together once in a while. I desperately wish I took pictures down there. It was so creepy looking. P.S. We never did find the pool. Also, don't worry about keeping me anonymous from Kat. Thank you, Kat. I wish you had taken pictures too. I would have loved pictures of that. I could picture it, but I would have loved pictures just to like see the layout and everything. I love hotels for that reason. I just love hotels in general. They're my favorite. I would rather stay at a hotel than an Airbnb any day. Something about being in a hotel room with the blue light from the TV and laying in bed eating snacks. Oh, there's nothing like staying in a hotel. But I also love hotels for that like weird eeriness of them. Like there's always people awake. There's always somebody at the front desk 24/7, which is really comforting, but also just strange at the same time that like so many things are happening in that one building with like people doing different trips. Like it might be a business trip, a vacation. Some people are having the worst trips of their lives, going to funeral, like there's just something about that. And the other thing that fascinates me about hotels that often I tell people and they have no idea that this is a thing, but there's no 13th floor. Most buildings that have more floors, have a lot of floors, they skip the number 13 because of superstition. I don't think that the people that built the hotel are superstitious, but they know that guests are superstitious and that they won't want to stay on the 13th floor. So next time you go to a hotel, look at the elevator if it's taller than, 14 stories. And I bet you that the 13th floor will be missing. It's so interesting. It's not just hotels, it's other large buildings too. But this kind of reminds me of that because it's like, there is some weird stuff about hotels. They're often supposedly haunted. There's like weird backstories, like weird famous people have stayed in there, just stuff like that. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there was some weird explanation. I'm not saying there's not a logical explanation, but I wonder what is down there, especially because you kind of snuck down there. It would just be interesting to know like what the purpose of that was. The other weird thing, probably arguably more weird than the backrooms that you found, is the fact that there was no pool, that you couldn't find the door to the pool, which is weird. Like even if it was closed or the door was locked, there would have been pool access door. There still would have been a sign somewhere. So yeah, what are you hiding? Not you, but what is the hotel hiding? Okay, trigger warning for this next story. I was reading ahead some, and this next story has some S word, depression, self-harm mentions and stuff in it. Just FYI. Okay, next story starts, hello from Brazil. My name is Lydia, and I don't know if this story fits the theme since it's not supernatural or criminal, but it does involve the greatest mystery of humankind, which is the human brain. Back in 2021, I was going through a rough patch and had to spend about 10 days in a mental facility, basically on S-word watch. It was a very nice place and I got taken care of well. I shared a room with 3 other women around my age, although I was the youngest. All of them had children and had very serious stuff going on. I don't need to be anonymous, but I'm going to refer to them as A and B for the sake of this story. The other roommate didn't participate in this. So A had 2 kids and a very abusive husband and a history of having an abusive father as well. The thing is, when her father found out he had cancer, he completely changed his behavior towards his family in his last year or so of life and became a good husband and dad. So she loved him and had a fond memory of him. She struggled with depression and self-harm, but she also had epilepsy due to a problem in her brain. And because of some bullshit bureaucracy, she wasn't being able to take her epilepsy meds while in the facility. The first time she had a convulsion was during art therapy, and instead of jerking around, she would most of the time just fall to the floor paralyzed. I didn't see it because I was washing the brushes or something. I just heard from B what had happened. The second time, it was weirder because I actually walked past the sofa in the TV room and saw her laying down, but as I only saw her legs, I thought she was just taking a nap. Another patient, an older woman, even told me that she was sick again, but I didn't get it. I thought she meant A was feeling nauseous and was laying down. I went downstairs again to the art therapy session and B was missing, but I thought she was just smoking or something, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. A few minutes later, B showed up completely puzzled, telling me to come quick with her. She told me that A had another seizure, and now that she woke up, she had lost her memory. I was in shock as well, but she proceeded to tell me something even more surprising. She had regressed to a 7-year-old. I had to see that for myself and help in any way I could. I got to the TV room and she was sitting on the sofa, wiggling her legs and drinking water from a plastic cup. She had all the body language of a child. She was watching a children's movie and commenting the way a child would, and even her voice was way higher. When asked where she was, she would either say, "I don't know," or "I'm waiting for my dad." Her dad died when she was 7. She didn't know our names and didn't know about her children or husband as well. All she knew was that she was waiting for her dad to come pick her up. She would look at us with those bright blue eyes and ask, "Are you my friends? Where are we? Where is my room?" It was very unsettling. We sat beside her as she took her medication on the IV and watched the movie, and slowly she started recollecting her memories. She remembered our names and where she was, and soon she was 27 again. What? So it wasn't permanent? That's so It is scary. You're saying it's not scary. That's weird, though. That's a little scary. If you're like, your friend is somebody you know and suddenly there's somebody else, that would freak me out. As I said, it's not that scary. It's just a very shocking story of what our brain is capable of. It was so weird and fascinating to experience someone losing their memory like this in real life. Before, I thought it only happened in movies and stuff. We all felt very helpless and a little desperate to see a fully grown woman acting and behaving literally like a child. By the way, I think all the girls are fine nowadays, and A got divorced. That's it. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much. That's really fascinating. I don't know if I should say this or not. Now, mind you, I am not a mental health professional in any sense of the word. I have absolutely no credentials, so I have no idea. But is it like a possibility that like maybe the seizure didn't do something to her brain, but maybe whatever her mental illness was like making her act like that for such a short period of time, like to mess with you guys? And I don't mean maliciously. Like, I don't mean she was trying to like be mean or anything, but she just like, I don't know. That's so weird. I'm just trying to think of like, was her mental illness kind of taking over for a few minutes, or was it something that the seizure physically did to her brain? Because if it did something physical to her brain, you would think that it would have lasted longer than just a few minutes. But if she didn't remember acting like a child, then yeah, that's so weird. Oh, that's so weird. Okay, this next story 6, is pretty long, so I'm going to make this the last story for today's video. Hi, Hannah. My name is Anna. My mother and her side of the family have a house in eastern Massachusetts until my grandfather passed away and it was sold. Not far from Plymouth, if you know where that is. I'll be sharing 3 of their experiences for you today out of the 19 total stories that my family and friends have shared with me over the years. There are more than 19, but these are the ones that have been told to me and recorded. I'd love to know your opinions, and I welcome any ideas the audience has as well. Let me know if you want to hear more, but for now, I'll keep it at 3 since this email is already so long. I'd like to give the disclaimer that I haven't personally witnessed any of these events. I've been at the house many times and I've never seen or heard anything unusual. However, my mother, grandparents, multiple uncles, cousins, a family friend, and a sister have shared the exact same telling of their individual experiences over and over again without any deviations in the details for over a decade now. In the case of my mother and oldest uncle, the stories have been consistent for as long as I've been alive. They're both in their late 60s and early 70s, respectively, despite one of them having memory issues now in day-to-day life. I also want to get it out there that I myself am still a skeptic. I have no idea what to make of all of this, or if there's a rational explanation none of us have thought of yet. Several of my family members are religious and/or believe in the paranormal, but many of us still don't. Also, my uncle got a call from the family that bought the house from us a year after the purchase, and he had asked them if they had experienced anything unusual at the house. He never told them about the experiences before they bought it. They said there's been nothing and that they love the house, and we are relieved to hear that. The house dates back to the early 20th century, but it was rebuilt after a fire tore through the original structure. We'd had the house since the 1950s when my grandparents purchased it until 2009 when we sold it after my grandfather passed away. The house had an old original side and the new side extension that was built in the 70s. The old side of the house had a large front door, which upon entering faced a wide staircase that went up to the bedrooms and upstairs bathroom. If you turned right from the front door, you entered a sitting room. If you walked to the new part of the house from that sitting room, you'd see a living room with a baby grand piano and a den off to the side that connected to the downstairs bathroom. The new side of the house was in the opposite side, facing the backyard and the woods. It had a back door, which was the one our family and friends walked in and out of. We almost never went in through the front door. We also had a downstairs bathroom that sat in the middle of the first floor. It had two doors, one connecting to the new part, the den in the living room, one connecting to the old entrance room with the front staircase. We always kept the door to the front staircase locked because it would let in cold drafts that would make heating the new side of the house too expensive. However, we kept having issues with the locked door being left open, and no one in the family ever admitted to leaving it that way. If it was an ongoing prank, it was an expensive one because it caused our heater to constantly be on. Anyway, the issues with door locks will be a running theme with these stories. The kitchen and the back stairway are the first things you see once you turn right from entering through the back door, the door facing the backyard and the woods. There's a wall that prevents anyone from seeing who's entered until that person turns right and walks into the kitchen itself. What my family and friends would do is call out and announce themselves even if they're expected so that the people in the house know who's coming in. That'll be important later. With all of that being said, here are the experiences as they've recorded for me. I'm changing all the first names except my own for their privacy. Thank you very much for doing that. So feel free to use the names yourself to keep people straight. Okay. I just want to be clear. I'm pretty sure this is from Uncle Ben's perspective. I don't think this is from the writer's perspective. She said this is her family's experiences, and I believe she's writing this from her uncle's perspective. One of Uncle Ben's experiences. This happened in 2007. Can't remember the month exactly. I was living by myself in my dad's house while he had been put into long-term care for his deleted for privacy because, of course, Jim was only a short drive away. He'd visit me a lot while I managed the property. I'd gotten home from work and it was already dark out, so I made myself something to eat. I was sitting at the kitchen table when I heard the back door that led right into the kitchen open and shut. I thought I'd lock the door when I'd come in, but I'm not sure I had since I was pretty exhausted. Besides, Jim had a key to the house that he could use whatever he wanted. He usually yelled in that loud voice of his, "Just Jim," when he opened the back door, so I waited for that and the sound of his feet as he walked in and turned the corner, but it was silent. So I called out, "Jim?" thinking he was playing a prank on me. Still nothing. I got up and walked over to the back door and didn't see anyone at all. So either someone had opened the back door, didn't walk in, and shut it from the outside again, or I was hearing things. After the things that went on in that house before, I started getting scared. I went and checked every room, and sure enough, I was completely alone. I called Jim up and he told me that he'd been home I called Jim up and he told me he had been home, at his home all evening. That always makes me think of mimics or doppelgangers. My sister's only experience, 1988. Me and Brianna, our cousin, were spending the week there together. I had the biggest bedroom with the SNES. I don't know what that is. And she was using the bedroom that was off to the side by the upstairs bathroom. I told her I was going to have a shower before heading to bed, and so I went in there and left the door unlocked. I always did this in case she needed something while I was in the shower, and I know for a fact it was unlocked this night because sure enough, she came in to brush her teeth while I was showering with the curtain drawn. When I got out of the shower, I went to use the toilet and noticed something that made me freeze in place. The door to the bathroom was locked. Locked. What the hell? Listen, there's only one lock and it's inside the door, of course, like most bathrooms. It's one of those old deadbolt chain latch locks that requires you to secure the latch on the top of the door frame from the inside to lock it. You can't leave it in a position where when you close the door from the outside, it locks on the inside. You have to physically move the latch over and secure it, and it's a bit of a bitch to do all the time, but part of the reason I don't bother with it when no men are in the house. I talked to her about it and she admitted that she had walked into the unlocked bathroom while I was in the shower, but didn't touch the lock. But her being able to walk in, brush her teeth, leave again while the door locks behind her is impossible. At least it never happened again. Weird stuff. That is really, really weird. Experience of a family friend, I'll call her Deborah, while she was spending the night with my uncle Nathan. Well, mine's short and sweet. This was in the early 90s around the holidays. I had a long trip back home ahead of me the next morning, so I wanted to stay the night at the house with your Uncle Nathan. I took the guest bed and he was in the master bedroom, note the same one my sister was sleeping in later on. Nathan said he was tired and headed to bed early. I can't remember what time it was, but I stayed up a bit later than that. I was in the guest room watching TV with the bedroom door open when I heard footsteps coming up the back staircase. I muted the sound and listened more closely. I figured it had to be Nathan because no one else was in the house that night. The footsteps were very slow, like he was trying not to make any noise, and they were getting louder and louder as he creeped up to the top of the landing. Something felt off since the house was really old, as you know, and every movement makes a creak or noise in that hallway. And I hadn't heard him go down the steps earlier in the night, but I could have just not been paying attention since I was watching TV. Anyway, the creaking reached the top of the staircase, and I heard 3 more sounds as the wood groaned in the hall outside the bedroom from weight being put on the floorboards. Then there was no more noise and no doors being opened. I got curious and went out of the bedroom to look and see why Nathan was just standing there in the hallway right outside the guest bedroom and bathroom. Nobody was there. I immediately rushed into Nathan's room and asked him if he was just outside. I had to turn the lights on and wake him up because he was sleeping. He got a bit annoyed and said, "No, I was sleeping this whole time." I was so wigged out that I had to leave and get a hotel room for the night. I apologized to him and left, and I never stayed another night. No offense to you guys, but I'm convinced there's something evil in that house. And that's it. That's the end of the stories. No sign off on that one. So you said the new owners of the house have never experienced anything and weren't aware of any of these experiences, so they wouldn't be biased or anything. Maybe they just haven't lived there long enough, because you guys have been living there for many decades and it sounds like several generations. So maybe stuff has happened or it's still haunted and they just either haven't noticed anything yet or haven't experienced anything yet. I don't know. You guys, you said you've been there since the 50s, so that's a lot more time for something to go awry. But wow, what a funny story. It's so, those stories like that, I do like stories like that because it's subtle activity. It's not something so outrageous like the obviously fake TikToks we see all the time of things getting thrown around the kitchen and it's obviously a green suit or strings and stuff. I think this kind of stuff is way more convincing because the ghost hunters I've talked to, which I have talked to some, have said that it's very subtle. Real hauntings are typically not ghosts that are doing crazy things. It's usually energy, and if they do move something, it's a small amount of movement. They're not doing anything crazy like knocking shit off your shelves and making a mess. So I don't know, that's also so interesting. But if I had to live in a haunted house, I would want something like that where the ghosts are not mean or malevolent and they just like mess with me sometimes, but at least they're not like, can we at least be friends? Please don't scare me and haunt me and do mean things to me. So, okay guys, that is going to be it for this story video. I will see you in the next one. Please like the video to help the channel out. And yeah, that's it. Okay, bye.